Hello friends, welcome back to the Selenium tutorials. In the next set of tutorials, we will be discussing about the common questions which are generally asked in Selenium interviews. So we'll start with that. One such question is how to find the number of links or text boxes or buttons on a web page. So we'll take an example to explain this. So let's start doing that. So for example, if this is my web page, here there are few links. Here we have couple of text boxes. So if I need to count the total number of links on this web page, so first of all, what I'll do, I'll select any link. Here I could see login is a link. I'm right clicking on it. I'm using a Google Chrome browser to inspect the elements. So on the Google Chrome browser, I opened this website, and now on this login link, I'm doing a right click and I'm selecting the inspect option. When you do that, below you would be able to see the HTML of this page, and the highlighted line in blue on which I'm hovering right now, it shows a href login. So this is the login link. This is the HTML of this login link. So if you carefully observe, the tag name here is A, which is an anchor tag A. Keep in mind this A. Now let us see another link. So this was the HTML for the login link. If I hover to this about link, again I do the same step, right click, and if I do an inspect, now here if I see the highlighted line in blue, it is showing A. Again this thing, the tag here is A, href, and some link over here. So if you observe, in both the links the common factor is the anchor tag. So if we want to find all the links, we know that all the links would begin with this anchor tag. Let's take another example of this help center. Again I am doing a right click and inspect. So here again the tag is A, so which tells us all the links will have this tag, the anchor tag, as A. So in our script we'll have to use this anchor tag to find the total number of links on this web page. Keep in mind all the links will begin with this anchor tag. If we want to see any other object, for example this text box, phone or email, if I do a right click and inspect over here, if you would see over here the tag name is input, it is not A. So we can use input for finding text boxes, but for now we'll use the tag A since we need to find the total number of links on the web page. So we'll move to the editor and try to find out the total number of links on this web page. So here is the editor where we'll be writing the code to find the total number of links. The initial part of the code where we are launching the Firefox browser and navigating to the website that I have already written over here. I'm using the IntelliJ editor. You could use the Eclipse editor as well. Both are very good. The code will not change. The code will remain the same as it is. So for finding the HTML properties, I am using the Chrome browser here, but I'm using Firefox browser to execute the scripts. Since Selenium we can use multiple browsers, I have done the configuration with the Firefox browser, so I am using Firefox browser. You are free to use Internet Explorer or Chrome browser. You just need to set the property. In my system I have already set the property for the Gecko driver with Firefox, so I am using this. If you have forgotten why we do the Gecko driver settings, just refer to one of my previous tutorials where I have explained why do we need Gecko driver for execution on Firefox browser. So now here we will write the code to find the total number of links on that. So here I will be using my WebDriver object which I have named as obj. So I'm using obj dot find elements. I'll explain you this part. First of all, we would be using the tag name because we had observed the tag name A was common for all the links. So our task would be accomplished with the help of this tag name. So I'm using by dot tag name, and within quotes the tag name is A because the tag name was anchor A. So this statement would return all the elements which would be having the tag name as A. which in turn means it would be returning a collection of all the links. So as this statement would be returning a collection, whenever we get a collection in the return type, I won't be able to use obj.findElement. Here we have to use obj.findElements. Please note this part. This is very important, because if you would be writing obj.findElement, it would return only a single element. Here we are trying to fetch all the links, all the elements which has the anchor tag A. So this is very important. We should use obj.findElements, not element. So this statement would be returning a list of all the web elements which has the anchor tag A, which means it would be returning a list of all the links. Now the next part is I need to store this collection in a variable. Now since Java is a beautiful language, it has a variable called list variable. With the help of list variable, we can store the collection. So we'll see how to store this collection of all the links in a list variable. The syntax is very simple. It is list. You can give the name of the list as anything. I'm giving the name as obj list is equal to. That's it. List obj list, which is the variable name. You could give any name of your choice, and the right hand side statement of the equal to is very simple. Obj find elements by tag name A. So now this obj list will have all the elements which has the tag name A. Now another very important part, don't forget this part. Here I'll explain you this step. Like, since we are using list, it is very important to import list. So on the line number 8 on the top, the line which I have highlighted, you should have this thing imported in your class, which is import java.util.list. Do not import any other kind of list. It is under the util package of Java, so this is mandatory. If you will not include this, I'll just comment this line, and if you'll see over here, it is throwing an error. So this is very important. Do not forget to write this statement where we are importing list. Another thing, now this is a generic list provided by Java, which stores a collection. In our case, the collection is of type web elements. We are storing web elements, so we need to write one more piece of code, which is like this. You have to use your angular brackets, and within the angular bracket you have to write web element. When I do that, if you go on the top, by default this thing gets imported. Like if you are using Eclipse editor, then also you'll have to import this. And here we are using IntelliJ, so we have like it, in both the editors it would get imported automatically. Both are beautiful editors, but make sure if for some reason if it does not get imported, this line which I am highlighting over here, line number 5, org.openqa.selenium.webelement, this is imported in the class. If not, it will throw an error. If you want to see, I'll just show you. See, it is throwing an error on line number 24. So make sure you have your imports correctly done. So once you do this, now if you read this in a normal language, it is this statement will return a collection of web elements which has the anchor tag A, and that collection would be stored in a variable whose name is obj list. Now the entire collection of all the links on the web page are now stored in this obj list. Now using this obj list, you would be able to find the total number of links. It is very simple. With one line of code this would be accomplished. Now if I do an obj list dot, and if you see the first option, size, now this is returning me the size of this obj list, which in turn stores the collection of all the links on the web page, which means it is returning me the count of all the links on the web page. So our task is accomplished. We have found the total number of links on the web page. So let's just print this statement. So what we'll do is we'll use the system.out.println. Here, please be careful with the syntax. Ensure your semicolons are there. and when I will execute this on the console, the size of the list would be printed, which would be in turn the total number of links on the web page. So let's execute this. Since I am using this IntelliJ editor, I could execute by pressing this green button on the right hand side here, or I could use the run on the top. Whatever is easier for you, you could use that. So I am clicking on this run button now, so it will start executing in few seconds. You can see at the bottom something is executing. So here you go, the browser has launched. It will navigate to the web page now. The page has opened up, and in the background it would be taking the count of all the links. So we have printed on the console. So let's again move to the editor and see what it has printed on the console. So let's go back to the editor. Here you go, it is showing 45, which means this web page which we just saw has around 45 links. This thing test initiated, this is this statement which I have just written over here, so that we know after this line our output would be getting printed. So this was test initiated, which I have written over here, and this was the code which we just executed and saw the total number of links on the web page, which is showing as 45. So you may also get asked whether, like, if I want to see the text of all the links on the web page. Now I know the count, but if I wish to see the text of all these links, how to do that? That is also very simple. So we'll write few more lines of code to accomplish that, which goes like this, very simple. Since it is a collection, to move in to navigate the collection, I am using a simple for loop. This is the syntax of a for loop in Java. Int I is any variable. You could give any variable name. Remember, it should be int because we are counting. All the counts would be stored in integers. The initial index would be 0 because by default the indexing of all list objects starts from 0. I will navigate up to I is less than equal to this size. Since I'm starting from 0, I would use a -1 over here and increment it so that it goes to the next link when it gets executed. So this is the for loop which will be navigating through all the links, and now I'll use the system.out.println to print the text of these links. Syntax is very simple. Within brackets I'll be using obj list object. This is very simple, just make sure you are writing it correctly. So obj list, the next would be dot, then get. See, if you would see, it is prompting me, it takes an index. We have stored the index in variable I, so it would be I over here, and finally I need to see the text. To get the text, the method is dot get text, and finally a semicolon. So when this code would be executed, all the text of the links would get printed in the console. Now, very important point which you can be asked in an interview is like this get text. Now this get text will not work if you do not mention this part, the above line number 24, where we have used this web element, like we have typecasted this obj list with the web element. If I remove this line, see what happens. I'm just removing this line, and if I see, then this get text is not getting recognized because now it is treating this list as a generic Java list, not a Selenium web element list. This is the reason why we do a typecasting with the web element. Now as soon as I write this statement web element, this error vanishes and the code is working fine. So make sure that you have this typecasting done and you know the reason why you are doing this kind of a typecasting. Now if I execute this script, see what happens. So we'll now execute this script. So once again I click this run button on the top right, I click it, and within few seconds the execution will start and the browser will be launched. So as you can see, the browser is coming up. In few seconds it will navigate to the website. So here it has gone to the website, and in the background it would be actually printing the links on the console. So let's check on the editor. So here, if you would see and just scroll a bit up over here, you could see all the links have been printed, which means we have successfully learned this thing of how to count the links on the web page and how to print their text on the console. So this was about links. Now what if you want to find the total number of buttons on a page or any other object? So the steps would remain absolutely the same. So let's take an example of a button. So on the web page, this looks like a button. What I'll do a right click, go to inspect, view its HTML. Remember, I am using the Chrome browser for inspection of HTML. You could use either IE or Firefox, whichever you are comfortable with. So if you see, the tag for button is button button. So I could use this button string to check the total number of buttons on a web page. So let's do that. I'll move back to the editor. Here I'm replacing the anchor tag A with button button. Now let's execute this. So for execution, I'm just clicking this green button on the top right. It will start executing in few seconds. So the browser is launching. It will navigate to the web page. Here it goes, and in the background it must have taken the count of buttons. So let's check on the console. So if I just hover up, here you see the count is 28 and you're getting the text of only one button. Now you're seeing 28 buttons are on the web page, but when you view it here, you can see only one button. This is because there would be other buttons on the web page which are available, but those are invisible, because of which you are seeing the count here as 28, but the text, like the visible text, is only of one button, which is the get started button over here. So in my next tutorial, I'll explain you how to get the count of visible and invisible objects. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. I would see you in my next tutorial. Thanks for joining.